This Beautiful Fantastic. While many people don't have a favourite film, and understandably so because it's a hard thing to quantify, this film is without a doubt my favourite. I know that because the first time I watched it, I had that sort of feeling when you're in an op shop and you try something on, and in your gut you just know that you're going to wear it a bazillion jillion times without having to and ah about the whole thing for 10 minutes before deciding. I'm not and would never claim it to be the best film ever made, but it's my favourite, and one small contributing reason to this is the high prominence of food in the film. Lucky for me, I get to shove my favourite film in your faces and in your earbuds because of this, as there is a fabulous selection of food that I got stuck into and veganised the booties off them with epic results. But before I share those recipes with you, back to the film, and exactly why it's worthy of the claim of being my favourite. This Beautiful Fantastic is a small cast, small budget independent British film set in London, which follows reclusive writer and librarian Bella Brown as she has to face the task of repairing her long neglected garden at the back of her flat, as otherwise she will face eviction, despite her intense fear of nature and OCD tendencies. She develops a friendship of sorts with her grumpy plant expert of a neighbour over the course of the film, and also with her neighbour's booted out cleaner and cook Vernon, who works for her after his firing next door. I realise it sounds a little bizarre or bland, but I assure you, at least in my opinion, the cast really do make it work. The gentle comedy is not really about gardening, despite the introduction I just gave it, but more so about mental health, anxiety, grief, romantic and familiar love, passions, and growing enough confidence in yourself to get on and do what you wish to be doing in life. What I love about this film is how the character of Bella Brown represents an utterly creative person who is locked in and prevented from flowering because of anxieties and repetitive behaviours that pervade her life. The film meditates on the brain being both the source of creative drive and an inhibitor of it. This Beautiful Fantastic doesn't entertain the idea that a creative has to mentally suffer in order to create good work, but rather they will only flourish when they are freed from those intrusive thoughts and behaviours. At the start of the film, Bella's obsessive world she has created for herself is set to a routine of eating, dressing, and doing the exact same things each and every day at the same set times. Listening to Gaelic radio with her segregated dinner in front of her as the clock ticks over to 6:30. Her 7 different toothbrushes, one for every day of the week, stand in front of her bathroom mirror like prison bars to the life she could be leading. But instead of entertaining the idea that a traumatic facing of one's fears must take place in order for one's psyche to rebalance itself again, the film shows that through following the positive provided by friendship and support, even from the bizarrest of places, and creative passions, one can be led out of the darkness through love. Alright, that was corny, and the film is a quirky Hufflepuff type of film, I admit, but the whole inconsequential, gentle nature of the narrative in this film is what makes it one that I'll happily watch over and over. The relationship in the film between Bella and Vernon is one of the loveliest, purest on-screen representations of familiar love rather than romantic love. Vernon, a young Irish widowed father of 2 girls who works as a cleaner and cook to make ends meet, makes this film worth watching just on its own. The emotional sensitivity, humour, refreshing example of masculinity and ferocious yet sensible, generous nature of this character is heaven, and while the film doesn't really go into it, this character copes with his grief through taking a shitty job as a way to be surrounded by people all the time and distract himself through caring for them. As I said, the film is not overtly about gardening and nor is it about mental health, but the subtlety and layers to this modern day fairy tale, as it has been called, are what make it so wonderful. The food in the film only works as expressions of love and comfort, so with that you're definitely in for 3 warm hug-esque type recipes. Thank you for letting me ramble on about my hands down favourite film, Honey Bunches, but let's now jump into those recipes in This Beautiful Fantastic but Vegan. The first recipe, Honey Bunches, is an egg benedict, but obviously a vegan one, so made with tofu, and it's one that Vernon makes for Bella as a thank you. This recipe is super simple, and the hollandaise you just make in a blender, so it has a base of almonds, and to save the soaking process, I would go with almond meal, then some nutritional yeast, some Dijon mustard, turmeric, little soy milk in there too, some vegetable stock powder, some light flavoured oil like grapeseed oil, some lemon juice, a bit of white wine vinegar, and lots of pepper, and if you have black salt, then some black salt, otherwise just normal salt will do, but Yeah, if you ever see black salt around or you're on iHerb or something, definitely pick some up because it opens up a few more doors in the world of vegan cooking. So you blend that and then pop it in a pot and just bring it, yeah, you don't bring it to a boil, just heat it up. So for the eggy tofu part, I just slice some thin slices of tofu off a brick of quite firm tofu, and then press them with my hands to get out the excess water, and then I rub them with some spices. So I rub them with some paprika. This was just normal sweet Hungarian type paprika on both sides, and then I rub them with a bit of turmeric, but not too much. That's mainly just for colour, visual illusion, and then some pepper and some black salt, which adds the eggy twang to them. Yeah, super simple. Then you just pop them in a lightly oiled non-stick pan or pot is what I often use because this is our best non-stick surface. Anyway, so fry them up for a few minutes on both sides till they're lightly golden, and then I sauteed some mushrooms and some spinach as well to go underneath these bad boys, to pop on some English muffins. So on went the veg and the tofu, seared tofu, eggy tofu, and then a bit of the hollandaise, and I just put some parsley on top for garnish. And if you had this hollandaise on hand, this would be a very seriously quick but filling breakfast to make whenever you feel like it. So that's the eggs benedict. The next recipe is a vegan vegetable quiche, which is another thing that Vernon brings out to Bella when she's working on the garden. So I took this opportunity to finally share with you a vegan quiche recipe. I've been making a few out of different things, like vegan egg products and chickpea flour and what. This is a chickpea flour one, doesn't have tofu in it. It's super simple. I did make my own pastry this time round with some, I used a mixture of plain flour and wholemeal flour and a bit of coconut sugar, some salt, and then you sort of fork through some cold vegan butter until it sort of resembles breadcrumbs, then use your hand to bring it into a dough, and then you just roll it out into like a circle that's an inch or so bigger than your dish. Obviously you could just use puff pastry, but this is quite a nice pastry recipe if you're, I don't know, making it for a family for lunch or something. That could be nice because it does look a bit more quiche-like when you make your own short crust pastry, or you could just buy your own short crust pastry. Anyway, ramble. Put that in the freezer to chill for about 15 minutes, and then for the filling, this is like a vegetable quiche, but I also pop some vegan like ham in it. So to start off, sauteing some onions, some garlic, and some vegan cubed ham, or you could use vegan bacon, or you just leave that out and just make it a vegetable quiche. That would be super delicious too. Then I added some sliced mushrooms and a big handful of spinach, and this is sort of the veg that's going in it. Of course you could add whatever veg you like. The main component of this quiche, I suppose, is the batter. So you want to blind bake your quiche thing once the pastry is chilled and your oven's preheated. So for the egginess, we're doing chickpea flour, black salt, veg, stock powder, nutritional yeast. If there's any lumps, just like push them out with the bottom of a measuring cup or something. Then instead of milk and whatnot, I added a mixture of coconut cream and soy milk to make like 1.5 cups of liquid. Then I added a teaspoon of miso paste and I whisked that all together until smooth. And that's pretty much the eggy base. It's very quick to whip together. So once the quiche is cooked, you're good to build it up. Oh no, it looks like my tart has a soggy bottom. Mary Berry will not be happy. Anyway, I put half the veg on the bottom because it usually sinks to the bottom anyway. Then I added all the eggy mixture. I put some diced tomato on top. Any like moist veg is good to like keep this quite moist. And then I added the remaining veg on top and sprinkled it with some vegan parmesan, or you just sprinkle it with vegan cheese, whatever you like, and then cook it for about half an hour, and shazam! It looks the same, but it's been cooked. And yeah, of course it's not actually a proper quiche. It has its own texture, but what it is, I think, is really, really delicious and a fab lunch thing, or like school lunch thing. Okay, the finale, double chocolate cookies. Vernon makes a lot of cookies in the film, and when he first meets Bella, there's some double chocolate ones, I think. They don't exactly say what type they are, but I know they have cocoa in them, and oats. So these are my double chocolate cookies with some oats in them too. So that's me creaming together coconut oil, caster sugar and brown rice sugar, then mixing in some vanilla and some plant milk. Then you want to then you want to sift in some plain flour, some cocoa powder, some cinnamon is really nice to balance the flavour, salt, baking powder and baking soda. Yeah, I have started whisking these days because it just makes things better and I've been too lazy in the past. Anyway, so then I added some oats and then, yeah, use a spoon but also use your fist to like bring it together because you'll probably need it unless you're doing it in like a mix master or something. Yeah, so that's the dough. Taste fab just as is, but try to resist and roll it into balls. Of course you can roll them however you like. They don't actually spread that much, so don't worry about them overlapping. You could add definitely more to the tray than I did, like that, if it's a sort of standardy size tray. Then they take about 10 minutes to cook and they should look a bit crispy on the outside and still a bit fudgy on the inside. And that's them! I wish I could send you all one of these honey bunches, they're so good! Definitely delish and would convince any vegan cookie skeptic. So there are the recipes, honey bunches. Thank you for watching, honey bunches. You definitely have one, tastes better than the original and will impress anyone you feed it to type cookie recipes there to go on with. As well as 2 vegan, brunchy, eggy, but actually delicious type recipes which I think you'll like too. If you want to be comforted and filled with warm fuzzy feelings, then I cannot recommend this movie enough for you, honey bunches. And also if you're a Hufflepuff, then I'm 99.999% sure that you would enjoy it. Sending all the love and delicious grub your way, honey bunches. See you super soon. Bye!